Hey, welcome to the archive edition of Chad's Beer Reviews podcast. This episode is kind of like a twofer. So I'm was talking with Ben Harris, aka justabeergeek. I forget how I met him. He was in Albany at the time, back when I lived there. I think he had a beer blog, found him on Untapped. I think he was a regular at Mahar's or The Rock, one of those watering holes I was always at. Somehow we met, probably through mutual friends. Or just through, at the time, I had a blog on the Times-Union, which is the newspaper out of Albany. They used to have a blog on there that I wrote for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years. And I brought Ben on as a contributor because I wanted to, have, ideally I wanted to post something every day, but I think we went to like Mondays and Fridays, and I think like Craig Gravina, a few other people contributed. Anyway, so this is after I had known Ben for probably a few months. And I just sat down with him for a short podcast, and then we switched roles. So you'll see like he's sitting on the left side, I'm sitting on the right side, and then it switches, and then he interviews me. So you get a twofer in this episode. In fact, I just talked to Ben on Facebook about a week ago, and I will send it to him as soon as it goes live. So check out Ben Harris. He doesn't do beer blogs or anything like that anymore, but he is still in the Albany area. And he's drinking up all those great Treehouse beers because they just opened a brewery in Saratoga. All right, so I will see you guys next month. Hey, welcome to a long overdue episode of Interview with a Craft Beer Enthusiast. Today I'm talking with Ben Harris, also known as Just a Beer Geek. Thanks for coming by.
Oh, thanks for having me, Chad.
Ben is also a Albany-based beer tuber / beer blogger.
A little bit of both,
Yeah. Are you originally from Albany, or?
Just north of. I'm actually from Saratoga Springs. It's about 40 minutes north of here, give or take.
Yeah, Ben actually found me. How did you find me? Untapped or something? Or
God, I don't even remember. I think probably I started seeing your reviews on Rate Beer. I pop up.
The one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I see the logo here and there, and yeah, then I think we met for the first time at Mahar's in Albany when it was
before
it closed.
So let's just start at the beginning. What was your beer experience like growing up? Were you going to keggers, drinking Beast Iced? And
A little bit of that.
But basically, what was your craft beer epiphany?
Probably... I think it started, I went to school originally in Burlington, Vermont, and I experienced Magic Hat. I think Magic Hat probably broke me into it.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, before that it was a lot of Keystone, a lot of, Milwaukee's Beast, Natty, stuff like that. Pretty much anything we could get for $12 for a 30 rack was what we were going for. Then I got turned on to Magic Hat, got slowly into it, started drinking Guinness a lot, and then actually I think probably the explosion happened when I moved to Albany in 2009 and found Mahar's.
Now, was there like any particular style that really, did you have like an IPA or like an Imperial Stout and be like, wow, that's so much better than...
Actually, I started, up until probably 3-4 years ago, I hated IPAs. I would say, this tastes like a Christmas tree, how can you drink that? So actually, I started with wheat beers. American wheat beers, wit beers, Hefeweizens, kind of everything. And then narrowed from there. Got into, through Guinness, I got into stouts. I think I tried Guinness 4 and extra stout, and stuff like that. And then just basically said, well, I mean, if I'm going to be drinking these beers, I got to drink widely and try as much as I can. And kind of some things I just developed, like IPAs. All of a sudden I realized, wow, I'm getting these all the time, and now I love them.
So, you started getting into craft beer, and it sounds like it was like a, self-motivating thing. So, like, at what point were you like, I'm going to blog about this?
I don't really know. I think I started getting the idea probably last summer, 2012. because I like to read extensively on beer. I read a lot of the Michael Jackson stuff. I got the Oxford Companion to Beer. Was reading and watching as much YouTube stuff. So I kind of developed, because I talked about beer so often, I kind of developed into the beer guy in my group of friends. Because for some reason I retain like little interesting tidbits and stuff like that. They'd be like, "You should write about this stuff." And you know, I'm a trivia nut. So you know, they said, "Hey, you should start writing about it," and I did. And then one day I said, you know, I'm gonna throw my hat into the video beer review thing. And I had about 15 false starts where I'd record one, then I'd hate it and I'd delete it. And then eventually I said, you know, I gotta just throw one up there and see what happens.
Yeah. You're still a babe in the woods on as far as BeerTube. Like once you start getting the YouTube, that's when you really attract the crazy people will come out of the woodwork to leave comments on your videos and stuff.
Bring it on. Yeah. Well, all right, maybe not.
Don't encourage them. So anyways, you know, you're also a home brewer too, correct?
Yeah.
How long have you been home brewing for?
I've been home brewing for about 1.5 years, 2 years. Just bought a kit online. I skipped the Mr. Beer little kits and stuff like that. Got a good deal and just went right to Carboys and doing, you know, stuff like that. Didn't go to a bucket or anything. I just went right to doing secondaries right in the first go. And
you do all grain or extract?
I started with extract, but I jumped into all grain, brew in a bag specifically, pretty quick. I still brew extract once in a while. The pale ale I just brewed was extract just because it was easy, and we're making a session beer, so you know.
I keep trying to get him to come to my homebrew meetups, but he's always busy those nights.
I am, yeah. Well, I'm also a graduate student, so I have to read and write a ton.
Yeah.
So I get kind of swallowed up into that, and I also tend to overbook myself. Have to be in a couple places at once. That doesn't always work out, so.
Yeah. As far as beer reviewing goes, like, you know, there's certainly a difference between objectivity and subjectivity. Like, basically, like, to kind of pick your brain here, is like, when you're reviewing a beer, like, give us the breakdown. Like, what are you concentrating on? What's, you know, how much emphasis do you place on certain aspects as opposed to different aspects?
Sure. You mean like a breakdown of kind of how I'm thinking about it?
Yeah.
And generating a score?
Exactly. Like if you're reviewing, this is my homebrew, by the way.
It's delicious, actually. You know, I try to think of it. I know that reviewing in general, it's all subjective.
Yeah.
And I try
That's
to
what it's called a review.
Exactly. Yeah.
Description.
I try to be as candid as possible. That you know, you like what you like. I mean, my kind of motto is that you should drink better beer, but I say that if you're happy drinking your BMC adjunct lagers, then that's fine, you know. But I think I try to appreciate the entire package of the sensory experience. I do really pay attention to how a beer looks and especially how it smells. And that, you know, just kind of its presentation in a glass.
Yeah.
Because if it's sitting on my table and I'm looking at it going, that is a beer I want to drink, then I think it somehow enhances the next part of it.
And that's like a je ne sais quoi factor.
Yeah, it's like, you know, some beers you look at it and they kind of look flat, or you're like, But you know, some beers with the way it laces the glass, the color, whether it's filtered or unfiltered, there's just something about it that I don't know, can't really put my finger on. But I mean, obviously, I think the big thing is taste.
Yeah.
I don't review to style, because I think that kind of constrains you a little bit.
Right.
You know, I think that has its place in homebrew competitions and stuff like that, where you're trying to do a specific thing.
Right.
But like for example, black IPA. How do you grade that to style? There is no black IPA.
Yeah.
BJCP style anyway.
Totally.
Yeah, not yet anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I try to encompass just the overall. I mean, drinkability is very important. Is it a simple beer or is it a complex beer? If it's a simple beer, it has to be doing what it's doing really well to work for me. And if it's a complex beer, how are those things playing in chorus with one another? And if there's a lot of flavor notes going on, is it jumbled? Does it seem kind of unorganized in your mouth? Or is it a nice balance?
Yeah.
Balance is really important for some reason for me. Hops and malt and how they work in
Well,
relationship.
depending on the style, though, too.
Yeah.
You know, beer like this, well, actually, I think it's unbalanced, but whatever.
Well, I mean, it also balance depends on the style. Like, obviously, it doesn't have to be evenly balanced if we're talking about an IPA or a black IPA. Obviously, you're going to get hop forward in some beers, malt forward, and like a Doppelbock.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
So,
yeah. What's some of your more favorite styles or preferred styles?
Now that's tough, and I actually for some reason have a problem whenever I log onto like Rate Beer. It'll say your favorite style, and I'll change that like every week. Yeah, I mean I really like
The one up drink.
yeah, the beer in my hand.
Yeah.
I do like black IPAs. Actually, I think a good black IPA is really really good. I think it's actually kind of hard to do because I've had a lot of really just mediocre black IPAs. Your double IPAs, your big hop bombs, but I think probably the style that will forever be in my heart is probably the foreign, like the export stout. Export stout, imperial stouts, and sweet stouts too. I really like a good milk or an oatmeal stout.
Yeah. How about least favorite?
Anything in style 1? The American adjunct lager? No, probably least favorite, Rausch beer. I hate smoked beer.
Really?
I love smoked food. Barbecue or, smoke a chicken, that's delicious. But yeah, smoked beer, smoked porters, can't do it.
Really?
Yes. No, I mean, I
This
see.
is an acquired taste.
Yeah.
What about sours? Do you like sours?
Some of them, yes. I actually admittedly don't have a ton of exposure to sours.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just because I'm intimidated or probably just because I don't even think to buy them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of beers like Kolsch. I never think to buy them.
Yeah.
So
I'm not a big Kolsch fan.
on a hot day they're nice though.
Yeah. So like, what's your like short-term and long-term goals as far as your beer blog and being on YouTube and stuff?
To have fun. I mean, I'm not doing it for subscribers. I mean, if people watch my videos and they enjoy my videos, that's good.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly not going to obsess over if people are following me or liking me or whatever.
Right.
So I think short term and long term is just kind of to enjoy it, to have some good beers, to meet some people. I mean, I've already started to kind of branch out in the BeerTuber and the beer world and meet some people, and I'm having a lot of fun meeting people, drinking good beers.
Are you gonna do videos of your homebrews too?
Probably not initially. I might. Wait, do you mean like brewing videos or like review?
Or both?
Yeah, yeah. I could. I'll probably end up doing that. I think it kind of depends. I don't know. I guess for right now I'm sticking to the reviews, and then I'm gonna expand from there. I don't want to have
commercial reviews.
Yeah, commercial reviews. I don't want to have too many irons in the fire. I mean, as of right now, I'm on review 9. Well, at least for videos. I've done a lot of Rate Beer reviews, but
yeah.
So I'm gonna work on this and take your pointers, for example, and refine my product, so to speak, and then see where it goes.
What do you think the future of craft beer industry is?
Up. I think more and more. I think 5 years ago, if you had asked everyone I know, have you ever tried like a Sierra Nevada or even just like a broadly distributed craft beer?
Right.
They probably would have said no. I think, even maybe a little bit before that, I probably would have said no. But now, I mean, you can walk into like the local grocery store, like the little tiny grocery store next to me has a mix of 6 section. You can buy Chimay Blue at the little tiny price dropper next to my house. And they have you can buy a Colt 45 and a Bomber of Genesee, but you can also you can get your Omegangs and some other really nice craft beers. So
yeah.
I think as distribution expands, I think, do I ever think it's going to supplant the BMCs? That's a tough one. I hope so.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's like on a football Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll still drink a Miller Lite. I'm not a beer snob. Please don't crucify me for that. But, I mean, I think there's nowhere to go but up for craft beer. I think it's expanding at a great rate.
Cool. So if people want to check you out, where on the web can they find you?
Couple spots, and I tried to keep it as easy as possible. It's Just a Beer Geek. There's justabeergeek.com. There's youtube.com/justabeergeek, facebook.com/justabeergeek, and Twitter @justabeergeek.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming over, Ben, and thanks for doing the interview. And
Thanks for having me.
yep. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers. Hey everybody, I'm Just a Beer Geek, here today with Chad. Chad's Beer Reviews. If you've ever seen his reviews on YouTube, this kitchen probably looks pretty familiar to you by now. So yeah, we're getting together, we're talking about beer, having a little chat, and this is the first in, I don't know, maybe many Just a Beer Geek interviews. Well, you have interviews with the craft beer enthusiasts, I'm going to have to come up, Just a Beer interview? I don't know.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah. So Chad, you have been off the beer review scene for a little bit, but you amassed 700 video beer reviews and over 900 text reviews all total?
Well, to correct you, I never stopped reviewing beers. I haven't been off the beer review scene because I still do text reviews at chadsbeerreviews.com. I just retired doing video reviews on YouTube, except for the occasional super secret review, which if you're a fan on Facebook or Twitter, that's pretty much the only way you can see them.
Okay.
I don't know how many text reviews I've done, but yeah, it's probably getting close to 1,000 now.
Alright, so thinking back, all the way back to review number 1, what prompted you to start, when was the day you said, I'm going to start writing some beer reviews?
Yeah, that was about 5 years ago. That's such a long story. Okay, we gotta go back to the 90s.
Okay, alright.
In the 90s, I used to do movie reviews on the internet when the internet was fairly new. I did movie reviews. I was a college kid. Did those from like 95 through like 2001 when I joined the Navy. And then, I was active duty Navy for almost 7 years. And then got out, came back here. And I felt the need to pick up where I left off. And I was so sick of writing movie reviews. It's like, what else can I review that's fun? And I was so I started reading beer reviews on ep21.com. And I was just like, wow, I didn't know people could get, I had really no idea about, I had no idea how to, write a beer review at this point. I just, knew, I'd always been, I was never a BMC drinker, so when I was reading people's reviews of beer like this, I was, so fascinated. I was just like, that's, it's so interesting. I'm like, I wish I could do that. So around spring of 2008, I just started trying to write them, basically just emulating all the other beer reviewers that I read. And the first couple of years I think are really kind of embarrassing to look at now. They're still archived on my website if you want to read them. So that's basically how I came to do text beer reviews, just because I wanted to review something and I was burned out from doing movies, and so I was like, well, I like beer, why don't I try to review that?
Sure. So when you were thinking, all right, I'm going to review a beer, do you have a selection process? Do you go in specifically with certain styles or beers in mind, or do you just kind of pick it random?
What beer I'm going to review?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part it's random, unless I do a request, whatever people want me to, if people request something enough. And then there's not so much now, but when I was doing the YouTube reviews, I would try to kind of get whatever was the hot beer of the month or the week or whatever. Like we just got Stone Enjoy by blah 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 here in Albany.
Sure.
So that's the hot beer of the moment right now. You know, a year ago I would have rushed out to get that beer, but like now I'm just like, if I don't get it, I don't get it. I don't really, it's not a big deal. But otherwise, you know, it is fairly random because I reviewed so many beers at this point where I'm just like, now I go to the beer store and I just kind of like walk around in a daze and just be like, you know, well, this is interesting. It's a beer from Jamaica or it's a beer from Vietnam. I've never, you know, I'll review it. I was just in Virginia last week, so when I was there, I was looking like, can't get that in Albany, can't get that, you know. So, yeah, it's something like that. So it's a kind of a, it's, you know, it depends. I'd say for the most part it's fairly random, or it's something like like word of mouth, like I'll watch your reviews or read your reviews or Jay or whoever and be like, oh my god, this beer is great, and I'll be like, well, but, you know, they seem to really like it, so I'm gonna try to see if I can get it. So that's where they come from.
Okay. And now, do you have a favorite style of beer?
Up until about a year or two ago, I would have said, you know, I'm a total hophead, like IPAs, black IPAs, which we're drinking right now, my homebrew actually.
It's delicious.
Yeah, but up until about a year ago, like then I started to appreciate everything. Like you know, it's not that I disliked anything particular, but I just started to just like appreciate everything for what it was. Like I started getting like, you know, I like stouts, and then I was like, well, and I started to differentiate between a milk stout, oatmeal stout, coffee stout, chocolate stout, foreign extra stout, and then I started like, you know, I like sours, smoked beers, and we could just list off, you know, every style in the book here. I think I've had at least one beer from every style. I mean, some are harder to get than others.
Sure.
But, you know, I appreciate, and you know, I'm not BJCP or Cicerone certified yet, but I've, like, looking into it and starting to work on it, and just, like, being able to appreciate, like, this is what this style is supposed to be, you know.
Sure.
And now, you know, then I've been homebrewing for the last couple of years, and just getting more into that, you know, other, not from the consumer perspective, but from the kind of brewing and the chemistry and the biological side behind it. I'm just like, in the artistry. So I think beer is basically art that you drink.
Oh, I agree, yeah.
And so like now that I can appreciate all those aspects, then I appreciate all styles. I mean, all things being equal, like say we took a road trip to Village X in the middle of nowhere, and there's Brewpub X, and they have Pale Ale, IPA, Stout, blah blah blah. I'll probably go to the IPA first, but you know, it kind of depends on the situation too. You know, if it's summer, I'm probably gonna go for the Pale Ale or the wheat.
Sure.
If it's winter, I'm probably gonna go for the Stout or the barley wine.
And I imagine if it's a brew pub and you're eating there too, that's gonna have some influence.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so you mentioned BJCP and Cicerone.
Yeah.
Now, when you are evaluating a beer, do you tend to, you know, think about style when you're evaluating, or do you try to evaluate on a broader?
No, yeah, I try to evaluate it in and of itself. I mean, it's the same thing with like movies, you know, or anything. As a fellow English major, you might be familiar with like the different critical theories of like structuralism versus formalism and things like that.
Sure.
I kind of, you know, take the same approach to beer of just like, you know, rating it against itself. Like, could this beer be better? You know, like there's plenty of beers I've had where there's like absolutely no flaw at all, but I could just never, like, in good honesty, give it higher than like say a 7 out of 10. You know, maybe even a 6 out of 10. Yeah, as far as like, I don't really grade a style, because I don't go by those, except for the one time where I actually did judge a homebrew contest where that's where it was supposed to be, was to grade it by style. So.
Sure.
But there's always just, when you're when you're doing a beer review, I don't care who it is, I don't care what their credentials are, I don't care what they say, is that you are grading it on how much you liked it, you know. And everyone has a different taste, you know. Like, if you've ever seen my review of Budweiser and Clamato Chelada, that beer almost made me puke. But if you read the comments on that beer, there's tons of comments where like, you don't know what you're talking about. That beer is delicious. And it's just like, well, I can't, I'm not going to try to argue with you on any kind of remotely objectionable plateau or whatever platform.
Yeah.
It's like, if you like it, then that's great. But to me, it tastes bad. So I'm going to give it a low score.
And that beer's got some really devout followers too, believe it or not.
Totally. Oof. But I mean, the same. I find that the same people who love that beer will hate a beer like this, and you know, like I hate hops. You know, like, yeah.
True. All right, so well, that blows my worst beer you've ever had question out of the water. That's all right. So you mentioned that you can have a beer that has no flaws per se, but you have trouble getting it above a 6 or a 7.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about your mental process when you're getting into the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s. Like, is there a qualification that a beer has to have to be a 10 in Chad's world?
Well, for a 10, it just has to have that wow factor of just like you just drink it and just go wow, you know.
Sure.
It's very hard for me to drink a beer and like not have that. Like, I can appreciate, you know, like say like I'm like the first time I ever drank like Chimay Blue, I was like, wow, this beer is complex as hell. And I can't even imagine how difficult it is to brew or whatever, or just appreciate how complex and all the nuances of it and stuff. But like, it's still just like, it didn't blow me away, so I gave it like an 8, I think. But anyways, when I'm like, my actual reviewing process is, which is what your question was, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
I tend to ramble and get off.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I mean, I break it down by appearance, smell, taste, and drinkability. I mean, to me, taste is definitely the biggest factor. I mean, 'cause if it looks good, like to me, like appearance, aroma are more cosmetic factors. Because I've had plenty of beers that, you know, look great, smell great, but didn't really taste that good. And drinkability is also... Drinkability is kind of like the difference between a beer that tastes great and is also easy to drink. Cause like, we've had like huge barley wines, you know, that are like, you know, double-digit ABV, where they taste amazing, but you can only take like a tiny sip at a time.
Sure.
But like, I've had other barley wines where, it doesn't have to be just barley wines. I'm just using it as an example. Where it could be just as potent and just as robust, and it was actually remarkably drinkable. That's going to be the difference. Be like, you know, they taste, as far as you could say, equally good.
Sure.
But this one was so much more drinkable, that's going to get a higher rating from me. So, yeah, like when I'm drinking a beer, you know, taste is definitely the best. And it's all subjective. It's all to my taste. And, I mean, I think most of us beer bloggers, beer vloggers, were basically, you know, we basically use our blogs and vlogs as like a public diary. And, you know, it's like if, you know, other people want to read it and watch it and agree with it, that's great. If they disagree, you know, well, it's not my problem.
So they do.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, your worst beer experience, the Budweiser Clamato.
Yeah.
Now, this a tough one. Now, if you had to maybe give a top 1 or 2 best beers you've ever tasted.
Yeah. Well, it's a funny thing, you know, I was thinking about that today. It's just like, it's the same as like with when you're having the first experience, like the first time you saw Star Wars as a kid, like you can't even like remember it now. But like there's certain beers, like when you have them for the first time, it just blow your mind. And then like you have them again later, and you're like, oh, well, it's not as good as I remember it last time. So does that take away anything from the beer? You know, so like, you know, Founders KBS, Firestone Walker Parabola, Russian River Pliny the Elder, Heady Topper, even Dogfish had 60-minute IPA. First time I had all those beers, they blew my mind. And then I had them, like, say, like a year or 6 months later, and then I was just like, oh, this is still really good. It's not as good as the first time I had it, but you know. So I mean, best beers I've ever had, probably those ones I just mentioned. Probably there's so many. Southern Tier Chocolate, which is out of the beers on that list, one I can actually get regularly.
Yeah.
Well, I can get Dogfish at 60-minute regularly. To me, that's not a top 10 beer anymore. It was at one time. What else is? I don't know. It's just I had to pull up my spreadsheet and, you know, Stone 10th Anniversary Ruination. It's just too many to list, but I mean, if I absolutely had to say, I'll say KBS, Pliny, Hetty, Ruination 10th Anniversary. I can't.
Hey,
It's close as you're.
I asked for 2. You gave me 4. I'm happy about that. So a similar question, and this is another probably one that's going to be hard for someone who's had as many beers as you. If you could only have one beer and you had unlimited supply, what would it be? But you could never drink a different beer.
I hate these kind of.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this kind of hypothetical desert island questions.
Yeah,
sure.
you know, if it's that kind of a question, then I would probably go for something milder, kind of like a Weinstefaner Hefeweizen,
Okay.
or Schneider, or Three Floyd Zombie Dust, something more sessionable. Well, not really sessionable, but a little bit more drinkable. Because I think if you drank Pliny or Hetty or KBS every day, you'd get sick of it, because it's like those are big, huge, ballsy beers, and
Sure.
like a lot of the appeal is lost. Like or most of the, well, not most, but a lot of the appeal is in its rarity and its, you know. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely had it. I don't know. It's hard for me to name one beer right now, but I'd probably say like a German Hefeweizen or American Pale Ale.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. For a good solid daily drinker.
Yeah.
For eternity anyway.
If I could get like a really, really good English bitter on cask in London or something like that, like a 3.9%. Yeah, like well, I can't really name it anymore. Like the closest I could name is like a Fuller's London Fry or something.
Or even maybe a Fuller's ESB fresh.
Yeah, or Wells Bombardier or something like that. But yeah.
Okay. Alright, so one last question. Now you've been, like you said, and you corrected me, you know, retired from the video beer review scene.
Yeah.
Since August of last year.
Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself coming back?
Well, I sort of, every once in a while I do a secret beer review. So like that's, and then I did a guest review on your show. So like I don't have any problems doing that, like being guests on other people's shows, but you know, I just felt like I've said everything there is to say and do everything there is to do as far as doing video reviews on YouTube, without taking it to the next level of being like a super Hollywood quality production values like Chris of Beer Geek Nation. I guess he's pretty much the you know, the yardstick by which everyone else is measured. I don't really have the time or mental energy to do that, or like I'd have to get Adobe Premiere or Final Cut or something like that to do those kinds of effects and things. I'm just like, to me it's not really worth all that trouble to go through just to do a video beer review. So I'm happy just doing it on my blog, and even that I've even given consideration to retiring from, because it's starting to get more about the beer reviews than the beer itself. But
Sure.
yeah, I'll keep doing. I have no problems doing guest reviews, Skype reviews with other beer tubers like Simon. But I don't, short of winning the lottery, you know, and having nothing else to do, I can't imagine a scenario in which I'd come back full time, or if I like maybe if I became like became so thoroughly became such an expert beer person, like BJCP Cicerone, like went to brewing school and like learned that whole other side of brewing and have like a completely different perspective on it, which I've been gradually inching towards, but I still have a very long way to go. Then I could maybe see myself doing that, coming back but from a brewer's perspective, but then it would be a completely different show and just be, you know, like I know people who are BJCP and Cicerone certified, and they're like it's almost it's a double-edged sword, because then you start to see how bad all your favorite beers are. You know, you start to see all the flaws in them, or
Sure.
you know. So I don't know.
All right. Well, in the meantime, whenever I get a good rare beer, I'll make sure to do a joint review with you.
Yeah.
So, Chad, thank you very much for sitting down,
Yep,
chatting with me. Yeah, and hey, who knows? Maybe I'll make this a more regular thing.
Yeah.
So,
Chad'sBeerReviews.com.
yeah, check him out. Where can people check you out?
That's where you trick me up. Chad's with a Z, beerreviews.com. Also on Facebook at the same. And Twitter, Chad976, which is more my personal Twitter than the Beer Review Twitter. But I don't think you'll be disappointed if you check me out on Twitter.
Sounds good. Well, Chad, good talking to you.
Yep. Cheers.
And we'll see you again.